Clara is taking a taxi home. However, unlike the last time they took a taxi, Clara is by herself. Because, well, where were you tonight, Clara?
I was seducing the police officer that called us over here.
Officer Michael DeFontaine,
Fontaine,
yes.
the charming, rugged cowboy that we met in that diner. Clara took him out to dinner, many drinks, and then offered to go back home and explain that it was awful. Her brother's been in the hospital. They were attacked in that horrible place. Played up her damsel in distress scenario and just wanted to be held and not be alone for just a night.
Yes, the big, strong Mandison.
Yes.
That always fixes everything.
Yes. She, meanwhile, slipped him a quaalude and fucked him very, very soundly, very rough and passionate and tumble and everything, so she would exhaust him to sleep and hopefully into enough unconsciousness she can go through his entire house. So that's where she was tonight, and we already rolled investigate, and I got the middle level, so she is trying to figure out if DeFontaine has betrayed them. Did he set them up? Is he working with the old Royal Phoenix Society or with anybody that knows Bertrand? Or was he caught up in somebody else's web? So she's gone through everything possible in his house and is now kind of organizing her mental notes as she rides home in the taxi. Still kind of sex must, but with her jewelry back in place.
Okay, yes, because that means that the fun is over.
Mm-hmm.
What you find is the life of a member of the new, remember this is new stuff, the Nevada Gaming Control Board. He seems clean. You know, there are no little Call of Cthulhu style statues in a small shrine in the basement. There are no severed heads. There are no strange 10-circled symbols. The house is kind of nice.
Okay.
It's a newer flat ranch. It does have central air, as do most of the new houses around here. Yeah, it's the thing. It's a bit of a larger house than you would expect from a member of law enforcement, but it's not a mansion. And what are the property values in Las Vegas right now? You know, it's maybe he's getting a little bit of more money from somewhere, but it not blatant enough for you to go, oh man, this guy's got a briefcase full of cash. There is also not a thick vellum envelope with a big wax seal on it that, you know, says, you know, please open when evil plans don't work right.
Well, she's even looking for ledgers of if he would be keeping any track of any money that might be extra or off the books, or strange notes. Like, Claire's read mystery novels before, so she's going over his notepads with pencils to try to see if she can trace out what the last few notes he wrote were, because that's what the detectives do.
Yes, that is what the detectives do.
Raymond Chandler was really good at it.
I don't want to say you find nothing.
Okay.
Because that's a bummer. Yeah. But what you do find is leverage in terms of emotional manipulation. This guy lives on the cowboy trope.
Okay.
Like this, there's John Wayne posters on the wall. There's, you know, cowboy, not just modern cowboy paraphernalia, but there is old cowboy paraphernalia, or actually cowboy paraphernalia is inaccurate. Wild West sheriff paraphernalia. This guy like exists in a cowboy movie in his head. Not to the point of insanity, but the way DeFontaine interacts with the world is through the lens of the movie theater. I mean, there's a lot of movie stuff. So every good cowboy movie in the last 10 years, there's a poster of. You know, he's got a napkin that was signed by John Wayne that's framed in, you know, not expensively, but nicely. Yeah, it's
That's fine. That makes sense. Then if she has seen nothing that tells her straight up or hints that he's dirty, that's really, really what she was looking for.
Unless you are willing to actually abscond with some of his books, like he does. Like, I mean, he is doing his books by hand. He is doing his accounting by hand. If you're willing to abscond with one, you would be able to find what would be there, but there is no promise that there is.
Yeah, no, not this time. She might have to seduce him again and come back with a camera. But since she knows that, she's going to leave him a note on the bedside table, which is basically like, my siblings will worry. This was lovely. Please help us find out who did this to my brother, and please take care of us while we're out here. I trust you, and I hope we can do this again, and we really need your help. Yours, Clara.
Yours, Clara. Oh my God, don't let Matthew read that. Matthew, do not rub a pencil over the top of her notepad to find out what she just wrote.
Just rub other things.
Yes.
Yeah, and then she called the taxi, and now she's in the taxi trying to shake off the fact that she fucked that guy.
How does she feel at this point? This was some pretty, this was as cold-blooded as hot sex gets.
Yes.
And what's her thoughts on that?
It was in defense of her siblings, so she feels fairly justified. And honestly, she spent her entire life using her body and selling her body, be it to the stage or the screen or whatever. This is just another step in the process. She's been on the casting couch before. This is way more important than getting a role. These are her siblings, so she feels a little dirty, but overall it's a part of the life.
For better or for use, this is a transaction that she's comfortable with.
Pretty much. And at least she had some fun. I mean, he couldn't have been totally awful.
No, probably not.
Yeah, so had a good night out of it, got to snoop around, continuing to get a valuable resource for them. It's fine.
And absolutely, what you got out of it is a fairly solid belief that he is not weird.
Okay, that's
in the spooky weird way.
Yep.
And that having seen the inside of his house and having had a conversation with him and listened to the way he talks and the big strong man act and that whole thing, you are fairly certain that if presented correctly, you could lead this man around by the nose.
Excellent.
So you don't, he's not a cultist, but you could get him to show up somewhere and do something really stupid if you wrapped it the right way and continued the seduction / indoctrination that began tonight.
Excellent. That is Clara considers that a massive victory. So she's kind of in a good mood as she smokes the cigarette out the side window of the cab.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Pull up to the Tropicana.
Yeah.
We haven't been here in a little while, at least on screen.
Yeah.
It is beautiful. There's this giant great fountain in the front, and the water is flowing. There are lights. You can hear the crystalline laughter of people at a pool. That very distinct way that human sounds echo across flat water. You hear a live band somewhere, probably, and it's too late, so it's maybe an afters band, some low rent act that got a chance to play for an hour after everyone is supposed to go home, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Valet opens the door for you, gives you a hand out. This is that kind of place. Everything is lovely. All right. So as Clara heads back to the room, is Clara heading back to the room, or is she taking stops? Okay.
Yeah, she's heading back to the room.
Okay, so where are the Sibs? Where are the other two?
I'm gonna let Bethany.
Okay. Honestly, I think Bethany's tried to go to bed.
Okay.
Like, I think that she is legitimately expecting Clara and Matthew to fight when she gets back. Like, they're probably gonna have a fight about whatever Clara did, no matter what she did, and doesn't want to be there for that.
Okay, so you're trying sleep as opposed to waking disassociation this time?
Currently, but if she can't fall asleep, there are other options.
Well, let's see what your schizophrenia is doing. Let's roll for that as we kind of start a new day, or as a new day threatens to dawn.
Rolled a 3, and I have at least a -2 in this currently, so like 1.
Okay, so once again, Bethany's psyche goes caroming off the rainy road in the noir movie, and the gasoline fireball comes off the side of the California cliff.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not entirely certain if you're asleep or not. Whatever you're doing, it isn't lucid and it isn't restful.
Yeah. Probably sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You are having trouble getting the mental image of the copy of you met in hell.
Mm-hmm.
The one who was comfortable with their body and their sexuality, and comfortable with an assertive nature in regards to that. Mm-hmm. And she is, while still exploded and vivisected and generally sausage makings, which is how you left her, how you left her.
Yes, indeed.
Not a random event left her, how you left her.
Yes.
And she is nestled up next to you in bed, warm but cooling on the edges, and is telling you all of the things she would have done in Clara's place. And the description, the depictions of tab A slot B, like heterosex, is probably not exactly what Bethany considers great vacation material.
Really not.
So it's a double or possibly triple whammy of awful.
Yeah.
So, you know, on the bright side, maybe this is loud enough that you won't hear them fight.
It's not helping.
It's not. It's yeah. It's a little bit like breaking a finger to avoid scratching your nose.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Matthew, where are you at, yo?
He's in the living room. It's only right to stay up for when someone's out late. And he knows that Clara is going to be out late because he knows exactly what Clara is left to do with this detective.
Mm-hmm.
And God, he hopes that the detective is evil. Like, oh, man, does he hope? Because, like, then he has a really good excuse to murder him. And wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, no, we're just stuck with Lannister motivation.
Right? Like, he's like, oh, wouldn't that be wonderful? And this is, in a lot of ways, like, this is the first time that Matthew has had a situation in which, like, he has been directly informed, essentially, that Clara is going to go and use her sexuality in this way.
Oh yeah.
Has not attempted to stop her. And he has his bourbon next to him, and probably also washed down some painkillers with that because he's still injured.
Yeah.
So he's at least well sedated in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
And he is making notes for various business things and trying to keep his mind off of what is replaying over and over in his head.
Mm-hmm.
Because he knows all the expressions, the movements of Clara when she is in bed. And he does not want to imagine that with someone else. But what we want isn't always what we get. So
yes.
He is sitting and he is...
Yes. Being able to perfectly simulate everything that your lover or ex-lover does is not always enjoyable capability. So, like, do you have a light on behind you so you're silhouetted? Like, how committed are you to the drama?
I don't think he's attempting to create drama, so I think that, like, it's just beside him. Like, he's not trying to make this a thing of, like, dramatic entrance, where, like, because it's, again, like, this is not something where, like, he woke up and she had snuck off. And that's an aspect of it that, like, does change how he is viewing and how he is dealing with it, partially by his deep and sadly, as we all know here, soon to be sadly, knocked out, his deep hope of, man, is he evil? Is he someone that we can go after? Fuck. But, like, he's basically trying his best to not appear as if he is, waiting in an accusatory fashion, but he can't not wake up. He wouldn't be able to sleep anyway.
Yeah. And and hearing Clara come in and take off her shoes and pat in and take a shower, and do all of her bedtime stuff and then get in bed with you, it'd
feel weird.
Feel a little weird. Yeah. Okay. So we are, the fuel and oxygen mixture in the room is about optimal. At least 3 to 4 candles and lighters have been adequately deployed. So Clara, how do you come in?
Quietly, she told them both, please go to sleep. I will come home. I'm not going to spend the night, but I don't know how long this will take. They probably didn't listen, but she did say that. So in her hope that people went to sleep, she's kind of putting the key in very quietly and creaking the door open. And she sees him and goes, I was hoping you'd be able to sleep. Is she in bed at least?
She is.
Okay.
Both of she is in bed.
Clara very quietly shuts the door then because she's hoping Bethany is asleep and doesn't want to wake her.
Matthew will put down his drink and he will set aside, you can see the notations for various things, the various business, assets, and, trying to take notes on what he's been doing here while we're not, trying to find the truth. And he sets those aside, and his emotions are very controlled, and they're very, like, there is a level of commitment to control in his movements, which I'm sure is shocking to everyone.
Yes.
And he will get up and he will go to her, and it's not his movements are not fast. They're all very, like, precise is a better way of putting it. And he will very gently, in that way where you feel almost like you might break something if you touch it too hard, or in certain ways when you are kind of drunk and you overly cautious in some ways. It's hard to tell which is what's going on right now. He will stroke her hair back from her face, her still kind of sex must hair.
Mm-mm.
And he will just gently but firmly entwine his fingers into the back of the hair, the nape of her neck, and look at her throat for bruising.
Probably not bruises. I mean, not like strangling bruises.
No, not like
one or two, definitely one or two hickeys there, just slightly. She's positioned her necklace a little tighter, trying to hide them. But if he's looking, he will find them.
And he just gently tilts her head back to expose her throat more. And he places his mouth over one of the hickeys and just bites down. And he will lead her right to the bedroom. Like, he's not leading her to the shower.
Oh, okay.
Like, there are not like words happening right now. Like, this is just like, we're going here. What does she do?
She reaches up and grabs his hand and goes, I love you. I love you very much. I should shower. It is not fair to you that I'm still wearing his cologne.
He will look at her, say, I'm coming in with you.
Okay.
All right. And that will be his compromise.
Yeah, and he starts like quickly pulling off jewelry, but she wants to shower. She does not want to keep smelling his cologne either.
Yeah. Like, it is a very much like, he will go over basically everything that is left of him on her and basically try to replace it with himself. Like, every hickey, every little finger mark, like the scent of him, everything is basically that he wants to be what is on her in every way. Because like and this is like, would it probably have been a better option to, find out what she learned first? Likely, but like priorities, I guess. And like that is like clearly the like the sort of idea of like, this is like the compromise that he has been able to make with himself and with Clara of like dealing with this. Which is in some ways, moving forward, like
healthier than it's been in the past. And she's
still problems, but like
and she happily takes him in the shower and then to bed and gives him everything that he wants and just kind of kisses him and goes, I know you're exhausted. No, none of this is pressing enough to talk about now. Why don't we sleep? And I'll talk to both of you in the morning. And I'm home and I'm yours. And it's over for now.
I think that's the right choice, especially because Bethany is already asleep. He doesn't know. And he will basically just wrap around her and then go to sleep.
Yep.
He has combined alcohol and painkillers and really should be asleep right now.
She's had none of that, so she's probably awake a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but glad he's sleeping, glad to be home.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't fight. Good on them.
Yeah, but that wasn't very healthy.
Fine.
It's fine.
Our Horsts don't do healthy.
Yeah, speaking of unhealthy Van Horsts, Bethany, it's been longer than an instant, but less than forever since you climbed in bed with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to try to do anything to mitigate or manage this, or is this something you think you're just going to try to...
I need her to stop talking about that. That needs to stop happening.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts as to what method or technique or general idea you would use?
She would probably start by like saying stop it and realize that's not going to work. Yeah, she will probably do the same thing she did in hell to her doppelganger before she murdered her.
Okay.
Sleep with her.
I
can keep her mouth busy. She doesn't have to say things.
So, do you attempt in any way, shape, or form to de-eviscerate this haunting memory of yourself before you initiate sexual behavior with it, or are we just going to kind of...
It depends on
commit?
How that entity is acting. Like, if it's just the descriptive stuff, probably not. Bethany remembers shredding her.
Yeah.
Which means that she probably can again if she came back. For real.
Do people come back from hell?
We did.
Well, yeah, but do people come back? You know, like is the mechanism of hell? Does that return anything back, or is that a final stop? Good question.
It is.
Yeah, because Dad's still down there.
He is. We're supposed to go get him at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably where your mind ends up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seducing yourself to get yourself to stop talking about having sex with men.
Yes.
And in the middle of this, the thought of your adopted father that you left behind in hell comes in.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're just going to leave that there.
Such a bad night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have terrible news. It's morning.
Mm-hmm.
So we know how Bethany's doing. Matthew, have you had any nightmares?
Find out. So that's a 15, and then I -2 because of my stability and my serious wound. So I've got a 13. So yes, but not as bad as they could be.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, we'll file that under could be worse.
Yep. That's where Matthew's life is right now, is filed under could be worse.
Right.
Like, that's basically like where he's living. So
yeah, what would you have done if Clara had come home too tired to have sex with you?
That would have gone real bad. Like, whew. I think that then they would have fought, probably.
There's a good chance.
And I think that he would have seen it as a rejection of him, as opposed to the very logical fact that like having sex twice in the same evening is actually really tiring, and also she's been through all this other stuff. But I think that he would have seen it as like a rejection of him and like been incredibly upset about it. and because he can't deal with his emotions in a healthy way because of toxic masculinity, it would have just gone really poorly. Luckily, I guess that didn't happen, which, see, it could have been worse.
Yeah.
The theme of right now, the worst ever. I think that I actually kind of like the idea that, like, so the mid nightmares is the nightmares torment you and stuff like that. I don't know whether or not that's something that, like, would be part of the nightmares, quite frankly, is like the scenario that didn't happen.
Is there really anything else in Matthew's mind as he goes to sleep? I mean, that seems
like that sort of thing of like the what ifs, I think it fits also with that, like, connection that he has to the importance of control and of the importance of his place in the hierarchy, right? Like his importance. And I think that would absolutely be a huge part of, his internal fears, that's not part of it. He's not able to get that power that he lost by being in the hospital.
Do you remember the nightmare you had where you wanted to be with Clara, but you couldn't get out of your house? That every time you opened the door and you went out the door and you came back in, you walked back into the same room with your wife and your son. And no matter how many times you tried, this is the same song, but in a different key. What you end up doing is every time you open a door, the hotel door, you are now coming out of your bedroom in the hotel. So it's the repeating room thing, except this time, every time you open the door, you see Clara closing a door.
Oh.
And so you go to follow her, and you open the door, and you open the door, and you see her red lacquered fingernails pulling the door shut. And then you do this a few times, and then you see that next to the door, she has now left her heels. And then you go through the door again, and after that, like, her jewelry is now kind of tucked into her shoe, the way she would tuck it into somewhere if she didn't have her jewelry case to put it away in. And over the course of the next 3 or 4 eternities, as you continually attempt to chase Clara, everything that she left in, and of course came home in, is left on a pile next to the door. And this takes like 20 or 30 iterations of this, because it's not just one for one. And then you wake up, which is nice, I guess, except now you're in the bedroom staring at the door.
Yep. I feel like of the various options for the mid nightmares, that's the keep it, forced to process some trauma, and you need to keep it together when you wake up is probably where I'm at right now.
Yeah, keep it together.
So I'll do that with a -1, since we got a little bit of that stability back. So hope you. Okay, good. So I rolled an 8, and then I had a -1, so that is a 7. And then I have a +2 from coolness, which is, a 9. No, I'm fucked. I thought I was okay. I was wrong.
Okay. Cower powerless in the threat's presence, panic with no control of your actions, suffer emotional trauma, or suffer life-changing trauma. How many stability do you have right now, Matthew?
I have actually a good amount. I have, I'm currently at unfocused, So I just have
Okay.
a disadvantage.
Okay. So, how does a little bit of hyper-possessiveness and a stability loss sound? Does that sound appropriate?
I think that makes a lot of sense, especially with how this is the first time that he's ever been anything but even worse about this. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense for him to have that sort of feeling of intense possessiveness. And also, you know, let's all be honest, he's still really hoping that, like, we're going to wake up and Claire's going to tell him about how they need to kill this guy. So
oh yeah, he's a baby eating chupacabra in a people suit. Like, that's like, we're on team chupacabra in a people suit.
It's a weird thing to be like, I really hope this person's a monster.
Yeah.
So I think he wakes up, he sees the door, and he turns around to, you know, wrap around Clara again.
Okay. So how about we're dealing with hyper possessiveness, and we're dealing with that until we get the 2 stability back.
Okay.
So it's just kind of as we role play and as we regain stability and do other things, we'll feel better about that. But while that psychic wound is fresh, we're gonna have to tangle with that.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So Clara, you abstained all night for the most part. You had to stay calm, cool, and collected. And as we all know, the all that does is give your addiction time to get a running start. So how is your addiction tonight?
Oh, 18.
18. Once again, rock hard.
Okay, cool. Yeah, she is in one of the phases where this clearly doesn't control me. It's fine. I have to be put together for my siblings, and that's fine. She's just, she's got her shit together, and she probably doesn't feel all that good because she was using fairly regularly, and physical withdrawal is not great.
No, it's not.
But she's been through it before, and she's like, since Matthew got hurt, she's been kind of coming off of it. So the few days that he was in hospital, she was puking her guts out. And now she's in the state of like, I haven't taken in 5 days almost. I really probably shouldn't go back to it. I've got control of my life. I'm on top of everything. I've got this important thing to do. It's fine. And she has convinced herself that it is fine.
Are you convinced enough that you leave your paraphernalia in the room?
Yeah, in the room. She can come back and get it if she really needs it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just remember that.
Yeah, she got an 18, so she's feeling fairly confident about things.
Okay. Well, for better or for worse, we'll see how that goes. All right. So it is the morning, or mid-morning, possibly leaning into lunchtime, depending on how our various traumas and dramas let us sleep. So, how are we this morning? How do we look as we finally adjourn?
Tired. She's not using, but coffee and maybe some alcohol in it would be really nice.
Okay, so we get coffee from room service?
Yep.
Do we have the brazen balls audacity to order solid food in this state?
Apparently not.
Apparently not.
I'm going to say that Matthew does.
Okay.
Okay.
If only because it's an aspect of normality, right? Like, to have, even if you don't touch the food, it's worth having the food there.
Okay.
But he is certainly spiking that drink.
Okay, yeah.
And it is very rare that he is not in some way lightly touching Clara.
Oh. She is, meanwhile, trying to wake up, trying to, like, get herself together and do her hair and put on some makeup, and is just like, Can I get some breathing room?
No.
He doesn't really reply to that, but he will move his hand to an area where you don't have like blocking for that.
Okay.
Like, he'll move from like her arm to her back.
Would you see if Bethany is up? I would prefer to talk to both of you so I don't have to rehash how I slept with this man multiple times. Want to see how she's doing? Or should I in a minute?
Why don't you in a minute?
All right. I told you I was going.
I'm not upset with you.
Okay, you're just going to treat me like a child who might disappear from this room.
Is it bad that I want to be close to you?
No, I'm just waking up.
Oh boy.
I'll get you some coffee.
Thank you, honey.
And you will get her coffee.
All right.
Yeah.
So we make a couple of mortgage payments on that bomb. All right, Bethany, have you made it?
To what? State of sleep ever?
Yeah, yeah. Like, have you achieved any form of success, be it wakefulness, sleep, or possibly even pants?
She doesn't wear pants. She wears a dress. It depends on whether other Bethany is gone by now.
She's gone.
Then yeah, we're a little bit better.
Okay.
So I feel like Bethany did sleep because what she really wanted was for her other self to not be there when she woke up. So that feels like a success. Is waking up and having other Bethany not be there.
Okay.
But I also think she probably just woke up.
Mm-hmm.
So feeling slightly better and like maybe that was it. Maybe that was the big weird thing that her brain decided to do to her was that, and it'll not keep happening. But she doesn't really trust that feeling.
Yeah, no. It's not how your life is it?
No, it's really not.
Not in the least. All right. So, the unmistakable rattle clatter of room service as the food and the coffee service arrives. And because everything is terrible, it is Jimmy, the dead kid, who brings the morning's breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
He's still dead.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't quite figured out if he's dead yet, will be dead soon, is a zombie. There's lots of questions about the specifics of why there is a dead person delivering your breakfast.
Yeah.
I don't think, have we ever been able to use magical intuition on Jimmy before? Because I remember last time, like by the time that we've actually figured out that there's a weird thing about him, like
he'd already left before Bethany told you guys that he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
like,
So I don't think we did.
Yeah, so I'd actually like to do that, if that, especially since I was like needing to come over for the coffee anyway. My beloved sister. So that is a 12 minus 1. So
there's more than a 9.
It's more than a 9. Which gives, just looking at the various ones.
You add plus soul to that, did you?
Oh, I didn't add plus soul. Never mind. So that's 14 though.
Okay.
Sadly, that minus 1 from the wound is distracting me.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thunk it that a serious wound would make you distracted? So it is 2 options. One may be saved until later this scene. I'm going to assume that this probably has some sort of magical nature, so I'm not going to look at that. I want to learn something about a creature's true nature, and I'll keep the other one in my back pocket.
Okay. I mean, it to say that he's dead would be a pretty like shitty response. So, he is, in a word, stuck. There's not really an active maliciousness around him. He's not like, his soul isn't bound to the room service cart, you know, with some great big glyph drawn in blood on the bottom, like, you know, the worst Full Metal Alchemist episode ever. It's he's just he died, but he's stuck. There's immense gravity that's holding him here. But like I said, it doesn't feel like it doesn't seem bindy. It doesn't seem like there's something that is connected to him. It is almost like he is unable to leave. You know, he's not chained up, he's locked in. There we go. He's not chained up, he's locked in. You are not entirely certain what would happen if, for some completely bonkers reason, you decided to pick Jimmy up and carry him off the grounds. It is also very difficult to tell if he is emotionless or professional, because he does have a very blank effect on his face. His movements are very organized and isolated, but then again, that's kind of what you would expect from the person who's bringing and then subsequently laying out your breakfast. You would expect their movements to be controlled and precise, and you would expect them to be striving to be forgettable.
Tragically, I probably would be disappointed if they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
I just want my coffee. The dead boy can go away.
Can we put that on a t-shirt? Like, I just want my coffee, the dead boy can leave.
But yeah, so that's good to know. He won't stop him from leaving. Clearly something else is stopping him from leaving. But he won't stop him from leaving the room. And he will doctor the coffee appropriately and have it at Clara's spot for when she comes out to tell us about what she learned by fucking people.
Thank you, darling. She'll kiss Matthew on the cheek and then go to Bethany's room. Bethany, dear, are you awake? We have coffee.
Oh, thank God. Bethany will get up for coffee.
Comes back out, just makes certain that Bethany is coming, is a little worried, scoops up her doctored coffee, goes to sit, and sits in the single chair by the window, doesn't choose the couch.
So does Matthew drag a chair next to her, like the exam scene at the beginning of Men in Black? Like, what happens now?
No, because that shows weakness.
Oh, okay.
He takes a seat and keeps an eye.
And just radiates?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There are it's very much the sort of thing where he is there's clearly a power play of attempting to, both of them trying to take control of the situation right now, and both of them I think are trying their very best to not be the ones who seem like they are in less control of the situation.
Half of Bethany's coffee is alcohol. No, anything like that happens. No.
Respect.
Yeah. This is the only cup of coffee brewed in a 50-year oak barrel.
Yep.
So Clara settles, has drained about half of her coffee, and goes, he's not strange. He's not a part of the Royal Phoenix Society. He's not a part of a cult. He's not, from what I can tell, he's not on the take, and he's not corrupt at all. I want to go back. There were some ledgers that I couldn't write all the numbers down. I don't know if I can get one of the smaller cameras that some of those detectives use and sneak it in my purse, if I bring a big purse, and see if I can get information about his books. But he didn't set us up, at least from everything that I can tell and from every way that he's acting. He will be, if I keep up with this, an immensely valuable asset.
So he is essentially someone who is an idiot who was used to put us in that situation.
Yes. And I need more time with him to figure out who directed him that way. Oh, we know who directed him to us. It was the man who worked on the case. The man who worked on the case in Pittsburgh. They worked together.
Yes. Andrew Kaminsky.
Yep. I was looking for it in my notes. Very tired, Clara goes over to her little notebook and, oh, there it is. Andrew Kaminsky is the one that directed him to us. I don't know if Kaminsky... Now a part of me thinks that Kaminsky is in on it, but he's probably back in Pittsburgh? No,
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, he is.
Kaminsky and DeFontaine used to be partners. DeFontaine did a little bit of traditional police work in the Pittsburgh area before getting tapped for this role. So they were former partners for a little bit. I mean, not 20-year practically married partners, but
Yeah.
they spent some time together.
So I'm going to keep in touch with him, keep going to dinner with him, figuring out what I know, Matthew. It's not like I like him or I'm interested in him. It's for our own safety. We need allies out here. If he's an ally, then he's an ally.
Matthew gets up and pours himself another cup of coffee, and this time makes it Bethany style. And drinks about half of it. It
Okay.
probably is burning hot, but he does not seem to mind. Maybe the alcohol cooled it down a little. It is half the alcohol. And he turns his face a little bit to look out the window because I don't think that he trusts his expression right now, but he can trust his voice. And says, likely, Kaminsky was also being used. If we're going to, I doubt that he's going to be our smoking gun. And finding out who has been talking to Kaminsky and who's been talking to DeFontaine is important to all of us. Yeah. And he could be a very good resource.
He could be.
That's my thought, so I will keep on with him as a resource. There's other things out here we probably should study. I can't remember how to get back to that hospital they had you in. I don't know that I want to go back there, but I was going to talk with their head surgeon, and we know that they understand the truth, or at least their version of it.
there are things that are left undone there, certainly. And we need to also track down what it is that is this place, the things that came after us. And we need to find out why the Royal Phoenix Society was used here. Whether Bertrand, quite frankly, was just used to get us to be here. Because that name itself, us being here, might be the trap in itself.
You're not wrong.
It's too risky for us to not look into it, but us looking into it may very well be the entire point. So we are caught in a catch-22.
She looks up at Bethany and kind of takes a moment to study her sister and try to figure out where her sister looks this morning.
Currently, feel like for Bethany, the walls are breathing, but in a heartbeat pattern. So it feels like there's pressure changing. And she's thinking about the heart that's wrapped up in butcher paper in their trunk. Unless they brought it up to the suite by now, maybe.
Probably in the closet.
Somewhere. She is having like a telltale heart moment, though, about where that is and this percussive sound and how she hasn't looked at it, and she needs to understand what that is.
Okay.
Bethany, you don't have to do it today because I don't know how you're feeling, but that thing that David put in the closet is our only other lead as far as I can tell. I don't know what we can figure out from it. Both of you are slightly more aware about all of this stuff than I am.
It may be beneficial for both of us to look at it.
You left with two things. You left with one of the hearts from the ritual, and you left with the hair cuttings and the defaced
Murder
sexy lady pamphlets. Yeah.
In the murder lunchbox.
And so, it's DeFontaine did once again repeat that shit wasn't there. 2 days earlier, whenever he did his looking around. So, in between the time that the police finished their business there and you all showed up there, those things were placed there.
And Clara believed him when he said that? Like, he seemed pretty genuine?
He seemed fairly genuine. I mean, because there was a controlled but not insignificant amount of professional worry. And he wanted to keep all of this off the books. He said, just let me know what you found. Tell me, and you're not in, it's, while yes, most of your information on the police does come from media, this kind of grisly multiple murder in data and what could be and the fucking lunchbox of, sex worker, possible mutilation, information is, to say that he missed that, for him to have to say that he missed that, or to say that he did not pick up on, that he didn't notice it was there, or he didn't pick up on its more current use and didn't have it staked out.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you went to his superior right now, he would probably never work in law enforcement again.
Put that in my back pocket.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Clara, having been the one that had her head together and wasn't in the hospital, stands up and goes to the closet, and she has gently rewrapped the heart in like some sort of cellophane or plastic. Like, she doesn't know how to keep evidence clean. She just doesn't want it to leak everywhere.
Well,
smelling. She
yeah.
doesn't know.
I mean, good news, bad news. The heart was packed in fairly loose, dry sand, so it really wasn't holding moisture. Okay, the bad news is that since you all looked at it the last time, it has clearly lost its animus and has now become a human heart that has been wrapped in butcher paper and cellophane.
Lays that out onto the table. She lays the lunchbox out.
With all of the ecological results thereof. You know, it's like when you find the thermos in the back of your car and you know you have to clean it, and you open it, and like there's that 10 seconds between when you open it and get the junk out and you get it into the water to clean it. It's that, like, I'm about to get a new sense memory. like isn't this great? I'm about to have a new life experience that's never ever gonna leave my brain ever again. Like, are you ready for this? Clunk. And so yeah,
well, that just happened.
There is a moment for all three of you where upon realizing that the heart is toast, or soggy bread, when you realize that the heart has returned to the natural course of things, there is a particular there's a shine to it for a brief moment, and it is merely a visual effect, except for maybe Bethany. This thing might over fucking commit for her in her current state, but there is a moment for all three of you when you think that you see the Metropolis maggots.
So, and this is probably going to be a waste, but that's fine. Because of that moment, even though the animus has left it and it is starting to decompose, I'm going to take the magical intuition out of my back pocket.
Yeah.
For the true nature of what's
okay. It is fading. I mean, clearly it is fading, but it is not in any way, shape, or form anything that you would recognize from your traumas, your abuses, your experiences as being from the Eternal City. This was not the city that hates you, the Eternal City, the city on 7,777 hills. This is not the place that was invoked when the magic was done here. So good news, bad news. This is straight up like Black Cauldron necromancy.
Great.
Like, this is DEFF death magic. 180 proof in a dirty glass.
Matthew?
Whoever did this isn't connected to anything that we've dealt with before. And it is deeply tied to death and the power that comes from that, which combined to the fact that there are people here who seem dead but are locked inside here, seems to be coming from this place specifically. We need to find the threads that tie these things. We have the box and DeFontaine to try to get links there, why they chose, if there's anything other than the fact that they may have been just people that were easily missed. But even then, we might be able to get information regarding where these people were found, and then people who were left may have seen something. We need to understand who here is causing this stasis and decay.
Now, to be clear, the vibes between Jimmy the Dead Kid and this is very different.
Okay, that's good to know.
This is the utilization of the energies of death to conjure a specific supernatural effect. I mean, the heart is death magic. Jimmy seems to incidentally be dead, and more importantly, be stuck. It looks like his stuckness is more pivotal than his deadness.
So we've kind of got like two different avenues of there's the people who are creating conjuration of death magic, and there is this sort of what is the situation going on with this place and why it's like this. Is that
yes?
Okay.
And the eternal insane howling civilization eating desert that's like right the fuck over there at all times waiting for you to blink.
Yeah, that's great.
To bury you next to Ozzy fucking Mandius.
Super great. So yeah, then instead of like that sort of aspect, he'll put that as two separate things essentially. So the people who have used the energy of death to try to murder us specifically and lure us to their trap, and why it is that this place is locking in people and making them seem dead, especially the people who it seems that have trouble leaving anyway. So these are all things that we need to figure out, all while trying not to die. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Or at least navigate.
I think the bomb tests have something to do with it, or they're fueling something at least. When that went off that night, I know that I think we all saw the other side. So whoever is doing this is using this area specifically for a reason. I'll work with Michael. I know that he doesn't want to get himself in trouble, and he will look into this quietly for his own career and for us. As much as anything, he can look into the dead girls and possibly where these body parts came, and hopefully get us the information too. The magic side, however, that's all you, especially Bethany.
Yes. How are you feeling about that?
I haven't had time with it yet to study it, but I'd like to.
It's decaying fast, so let's do it sooner than later.
Well, okay. Bethany is gonna go to the heart and look at it and attempt to see if there's been any like markings put on it, or try to find like some sort of ritual magic. She essentially is trying to like figure out how this was done.
If you recall some of your father's books, you know, it's geometry bound in a circle is pretty classic stuff. Mm-hmm. The problem is that the geometry was at and under the flop house, mm-hmm. and the hearts, as opposed to being the place where intent was described, they were more of a like a focusing point or a collecting point. Mm-hmm. So if you imagine that in a less gruesome kind of piece of classical magic working, the hearts would be where the candles were.
Right.
So it contained a powerful trace, and it did contain a lot of magic, and clearly connecting the bodies to the magic through the hearts being involved in the circle. Like you can hyperfixate in a rabbit hole into, you know, into the tiny fragmentary piece of knowledge that you have, and you can begin these wild extrapolations that probably would do significant damage to your mental health, mm-hmm. if you went too far with them. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to see a lot out of this, mm-hmm. aside from being pretty certain that they were alive when these hearts came out.
That's good to know. Yeah.
And the various not just veins, but the nerves and the connective tissue and all of the dozens of little bits that are attached to a heart, it didn't even before, it didn't look cleanly excised. Mm-hmm. It looked torn.
Okay.
So there were it was irregular and snapping and shredding and that look. So you know, these dudes got Kali Mod. And, you know, when you watch Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom in like 30 years, you're going to go, I know that guy. I went to college with him.
Yeah, so Bethany will look up at her siblings from her examination of the heart and say, this is useless now, and we should probably get rid of it.
Let's call David.
Sure.
Okay.
Matthew doesn't know how to get rid of human body parts that are starting to rot, but he assumes that David does.
Okay. In what manner do you give your intrepid driver this task? Are you like super casual about it? Is it just like a heart at the beginning stages of decomp, just like wrapped in cellophane in a bag? Like,
I think what he does, like he certainly like, you know, puts it like in a bag because that's polite.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to just hand it in the cellophane. Come on. But he you know, he wants to at least get the smell not as much going
okay.
on.
He assumes that David's expecting this since he's the one who wrapped the heart in butcher paper in the first place.
And he'll basically, the way that he does it is basically similar to any other unsavory task. Like, I'm so sorry you have to clean up after the dog. You know, I'm so sorry that you have to, you know, someone threw up because of the party, you know, and there's a situation like this. So like, it's certainly like an aspect of like, I am sorry that you have to deal with this. But like the level of like difference between this is a gross task that you need to do because that is just part of the job and we appreciate that you do it, and this is a literal human heart that is in the decomp stages, and like there is a certain visceral horribleness of this. Like Matthew is glossed over on that part. because he doesn't want to have to deal with how viscerally horrifying his life is right now.
Fair.
Clara steps in when David comes and Matthew hands it over like that and goes, "This was the thing that you helped us pick up that awful night. Whoever tried to kill us used this as some sort of fuel or something. It's gone now, it's dead, it's not active, but it's probably best we don't have it here."
Okay. He takes it, and his eyes go very distant. Like you can absolutely tell that, like, David has engaged some form of autopilot, or he has just actually straight up fucking disassociated. But he goes very distant, takes the bag, nods, and then leaves. Like,
Bethany sees this and like looks at her siblings and says, "We need to be careful with him."
Matthew also sees this because Matthew actually has good intuition. Can I make a roll really quick, actually, to see the level of like how much he can comprehend on this?
Yeah. What do you think? Read a person?
Yeah. It's so rare that I use this roll.
It's plus intuition.
Yeah.
Crazy pants.
Which Matthew hilariously actually has as a good amount. So that is -1 for my serious wounds, +1 for the intuition. Kind of blocks it out. So that's a 12.
Okay. So you may ask one question. Are you lying? How do you feel right now? What are you about to do? What do you wish I would do? Or how could I get you to Mad Libs?
What do you wish I would do?
He wishes you wouldn't make him go back there. Like, this was not the behavior of someone who's freshly traumatized,
Mm-hmm.
who is experiencing something new. This is someone who already has the emotional and mental scarring, who already has the pathways in their brain for coping with human decomposition and dealing with unexpected human body parts. Like, he's got the app for that. And he really wishes that he wouldn't have to use it. And upon consideration, the number of times lately that he's had to clean blood out of a car, or scrub animated corpse out of a radiator grill, or, the fact that he grabbed this heart and then secreted it away so that it didn't end up going with you anywhere. He has been you have put him in a bad place for a significant fraction of the past few days.
So with that understanding, when Bethany says that, Matthew actually does nod and says, in the future, for things like this, I'm going to take it on. We all have our different roles to play, and I think that I should be the person to deal with this aspect.
I can too. I'm used to hiding things and getting rid of things.
Yes, we should be careful with him, but if we're not careful with him, he will see like we see. So it's not just body parts and blood and It's the magic. It's the way the world is. He will see how unreal all of this can be. He's not that far.
As long as he is around us, he will have that risk. The only way to protect him from it would be to send him away, which is an option. But it's an option we need to think very hard about.
Can also make him see, but that's...
It would be easier if this was a choice, but he can't inherently.
He would become our responsibility if we do that to him.
He is already our responsibility. He is one of our people.
That's a part of being leaders.
A greater responsibility. Just be aware.
Of course.
If we couldn't handle one of our own, how will we handle ever leading in Metropolis again? If we actually want to go back there. And I know it feels like, I don't know, we've forgotten that. But I want to.
I'm just saying, if we're going to do this, we should do it on purpose.
What is the best way, Bethany, to have someone see?
Don't know. Why would I know? I don't have a best way. I've seen things that I was told weren't real for my whole life.
So when you know the best way.
There's not a kind way to do this.
I didn't say kind.
It's not kind. It's not easy. If he asks us the best way is if he sees something and truly sees it and asks us about it, that we're honest with him.
And that's what it will be.
Because nothing's worse than being lied to about this.
We're all being forced to have our lives be in this lie. It's better for us to be able to give it to that, even if it is painful, even if it's not kind. We need to be careful. You're right.
Yes. Aware.
What is so funny, Clara?
I have a very different idea of all of this than you both do.
What is your idea?
If we want to bring Metropolis back, if we want the power to do that, we need followers. We need other people to believe. If we decided to stay out here, honestly, I was going to start a show. We have money. Strange reviews are all the hot and all the rage. There was the movie, Metropolis, which is strangely, very strangely similar to some of the things that we saw, combining a dance hall review in the style of Metropolis, but in the style of our Metropolis, to draw eyes and to draw believers and draw power. I'd do it in a heartbeat.
You'd want to stay here?
If there's power. If there was a way back to the city here, which those bombs seem to be.
They're not going to the city. They're going somewhere else. The question is, can we make a path to the city?
Exactly.
That's something that I'm going to try to look into. The business side of things here might be able to be some kind of pathway for that. I can at least try. We'll see. There is another place out there that wants to be this place, and we would be fighting against it to make it here.
Then we make ourselves stronger. And we get allies and believers.
So we know what we're trying right now. Bethany?
Yes, I guess I'll try to build a door for our key.
You have a lot more to learn.
Sure do.
You have a
100% sure do.
there are layers of reality that you have to learn to peel back before that idea even becomes viable. There are terrible paths to tread.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There are significant psychedelics
Mm-hmm.
in your future.
Yep.
I don't want this to be the place that I stay forever. I like what we have in Pittsburgh because I like the connection it gives us to the city, but I am not adverse to having both options.
I'm not either. So we start building something here, and home is always a plane ride away. It's 4 hours.
Are we, I mean, yes, we should, it's the city first, the city, right? The city first and not Papa.
We need to, I don't know whether or not getting him from here is better than getting him from home, because getting him from home, we at least are going from a place that we understand better. Here, we might open something and it's, I don't even know where.
I don't know how to get there now. We sent away.
We need more power before we can get Papa, before we can probably even find him.
We need to know more. That's the problem. That's always been the problem, is we barely know anything.
There are people here that know. So here first.
Okay.
Okay. That felt like a really good set of collective decisions. I feel like the Van Horsts have aimed themselves a little bit into the acquisition of power and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
That felt pretty good. So we're going to take our little 5-minute break here at the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour. We're going to take our quick break, and then we're going to come back, and I think we're going to see where that knowledge and power might lie, or at least try to follow some breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Now in the 2-stage path of power, knowledge, and safety. All right. So thank you very much. Stick around, and we'll see what kind of crazy hijinks these 3 come up with. All right. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. We had to pause and take a minute and talk because we had that really great moment that I hope everyone was watching, where completely organically the players and the characters had this fantastic brief moment of like, we have identified goals. And there are a few things better as a game runner to have the characters living inside the players' heads enough that they can express their wants and desires, especially in the long term. So we started talking about that a little bit, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about it at the end of the stream. But one of the things that we, at least I, plan to do is to, at some point in this long and convoluted story, continue to the next stage of play, which is awakening, which is where the fan hits the shit back. Or enlightenment, excuse me, where the fan hits the shit back. And I think that the little brief discussion that they just had is going to flavor that and guide that a lot. So, all right. So, for the siblings, it has been an extremely disruptive week. You guys have really only been here for like a week, maybe less. This has been a sprint. Of a trauma sprint, which is, maybe we should come up with different sprints for next time. But now we have some goals. We have some objectives and some ideas. So what we're working with right now is that we are aware that someone is using death magic directly against the siblings. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2, someone name dropped a old enemy who was supposed to be super hella dead, like exploded into a loose gummy paste dead. and someone's playing you guys, and there's a lot of really strange and weird things happening, and not all of which you are comfortable with your level of understanding with. So we're at a crossroads. Where do you want to go?
I feel like from what we were kind of going with that conversation that we just had of all of the siblings, is like, we need to know what the fuck is going on. I feel like because that's the issue that the siblings have been having, is that right now they're in the fuck around and find out like sort of phase of things, and they've been fucking around a lot, but they're not really able to find out. And I think that's sort of their situations. At least that's the impression that I got, is that like all three of them are like, we need to understand, because right now we've only been seeing and not understanding.
So yes, we know that the desert and the darkness and when is the next bomb test?
Honey,
Like,
you and every Russian west of New Jersey wants that question answered.
Yeah, no, that's right. I don't know if they would advertise them in the papers and be like, come watch a cool thing. Probably not, yeah.
Actually, a good question. Keep talking.
Yeah, I feel like they might have in some of the things that I've read, but I could be wrong, so I'll let you look that up. So Clara wants to, because she's got enhanced awareness, be like, let's take a walk. Let's walk out to the edge of the desert and stare into this nothingness and see if we can look deeper into where the illusion is already weak and what we are standing on the edge of. Just fucking look at it. But also wants to do that when a bomb is being tested.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't do it at the same time. Like, maybe we should look at the desert first.
And then see what it looks like in the bomb again.
Yeah.
Well, okay. This is what I thought, and I double guessed I second guessed myself. So, reading from a newspaper article quickly, casinos like the Binion's Horseshoe and the Desert Inn flaunted their north-facing vistas, offering special atomic cocktails and dawn bomb parties, where crowds danced and quaffed until a flash lit the sky. The best thing to happen to Vegas was the atomic bomb, is one of the quotes. So, yes, I was wrong. Mea culpa. Apparently, they're fucking... I'm sorry. Like, let's just take a minute and have a brief meditation, because I thought this was right, and Erica, you were right. Like just have a brief meditation on the idea of standing on the roof of a hotel and drinking atomic themed cocktails and pulling an all-nighter, because these bombs went off in the morning.
Yeah, it was the same as like the way people watch rocket launches and shuttle launches. Like,
yeah,
it was a celebration of science, but it's Vegas, so of course you were fucking drunk and having a sex party afterwards. But
and now, like, but also think about that the same light that they were cheering then blew north and west.
Yeah.
Like the angel of fucking death through Egypt.
Yep.
And just cursed people with a plethora of cancers.
Yep.
And diseases and horrors that they're still dealing with today.
Yeah.
It just, okay. I knew I picked this location and time for the game for a reason, but every so often, like, it just jumps out and smacks you in the face and you go, holy shit. So we want to fuck with an atomic bomb?
I mean, why not?
It depends when the next launch is. Clara would genuinely like us to go look at the desert, the bare, empty, terrifying, awful desert before it gets blown up.
Okay.
And then while it's getting blown up, would like to see both those things and hope we don't get rolls.
The super duper early in the morning of June 2nd. And it's June 1st right now. So, tonight/tomorrow morning. Now, just to be clear, you'd be able to see the blast, but you're not going to get within miles of it because that's a extremely tightly, apex of the Cold War secured site.
I mean, also, the cancer probably is the thing that we want to know.
Yeah.
I don't know if we know about it. Let's not get super close to the ball.
Yeah.
It hasn't quite been the long-term effects of it, from what I understand, have not been identified at this point because Japan at this point is developing a significant body of research on it, but we don't have the half a century of knowledge that we do right now, and which is why John Wayne died in Genghis Khan, because they got a bunch of sand from then moved it around, and they acted in the midst of this crackling radioactive sand. Yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah, I like that idea of looking at before and after, or before.
Yep.
Okay.
So why don't we all get changed into something we don't mind hiking out into the desert a little wearing, and see what we can see.
All right. So it's morning time.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are looking at probably something like 15, 18 hours before the bomb goes off. So what's your intent? Do you want to go out there in the morning and have a quick look around and then go back later? Do you want to try to be out there when the bomb goes off? We are dancing on the edge of madness here, just to be clear. This is the last time an atomic bomb went off, you guys were definitely placed hip deep in the shit.
Yep.
Okay.
Clara's thought would be go out this morning during daylight to get a baseline reading of what the weird desert is, come back for lunch, and then Matthew start making phone calls for business. She might start making phone calls to set up something in the theater. If we have decided to get a foothold here, take the second half of the business day to start that, and then when the lights go down, go check it out at night, and then go again with the bomb. That would be what she presents, because she's being bossy and Clara right now.
Okay. Is there any generalized disagreement with that, or are the players and characters comfortable with that?
It seems like a good enough start. Matthew's sort of viewpoint on it is that they need to gather information and they need to gather power. These are both accurate assessments. He's not none of that is our thing. None of the things right now. Right now, danger is he's we're constantly in danger. Right. The less we know we're in danger, the more we know we're in danger. There is no situation in this while we are here that we are not in danger, and so the heightened danger of these aspects are not it's his barometer is starting to get broken in a lot of ways.
Yeah. You could walk away. You could pack your shit. You could be on a plane back to Pittsburgh by lunch. I mean, you could be eating dinner, on Forbes.
But then I'd have lost.
That's true.
Way to win.
Kether would be proud. Okay. So do you bring David? Do you see if someone will take you on a hike or a tour, or do a picnic lunch? I mean, this is, you guys, as terrifying it is for the three of you, this is currently a commercial spectacle.
I think that Matthew's suggestion would be that someone else take us, in that sort of commercial way, partially because of the fact that these are people who know that area, and so are likely to know where the best sort of views are. And 2, because he wants to give David a little bit of a break.
Okay. Like, do you tell him to take time off? Like, do you tell him to take the day off? Or you're like, we are going out, we are booking a tour, like, go put on your swim trunks and drink something out of a Coke shell?
No, but we do tell him that we're going to be going for like this you know, he tells him where they're going, but like he's not going to say, oh, take some time off.
Okay.
He's just going to be like, they're going to be going like here, you know, if you don't, you know, this is when you'll be hearing back from us, et cetera, et cetera. But like, it's up to David what he chooses to do with that time.
Okay. All right. He offers to go to the concierge and set that up for you.
That's fine.
Okay. Which
Yep.
she goes and does. There are several options that are happening. Now, you're not going to be able to get too close, but you will be able to go a little bit into the desert. And there are, you know, there's easily you can find a photographer to do a photo shoot. You know, there has been more than one racy picture of a lady like doing the pinup with something you know, kind of like a nuclear cloud made out of cotton for a bikini. You know, all of those fantastic, terrifying things. So yeah, you can go a little bit into the desert with someone who can, or at least a tamed portion of the desert. You hope. Yeah. Okay. You get a tour. So what do you want to do? You want to go have a picnic lunch? Do you want to go on a tour? Do you want to go on a nature hike?
My suggestion would probably be something more along the lines of a picnic lunch, because then if we are staring off into the distance, it's not strange.
Okay. Absolutely.
Like that gives us time to be a little bit a ways away and kind of be sitting and like looking off into the distance at the view.
Yes. You can absolutely do that with the understanding also. I'm just repeating myself to reinforce that is not going to be at a point where you can easily ascertain details of the nuclear test site. Mm-hmm. No, this is going to be kind of around a rock or things like that, where it's, you know, and your guide / driver he's not nervous, but there is a definite sense of him of like, look, don't mess this up for me. You know, this is my income right now. But it's a decent lunch. You know, sandwiches, couple of chilled salads. You know, some beers, some wine. You know, kind of whatever alcohol you choose to have. You know, a small flask of bourbon, some beautiful glass bottled Coca-Colas.
Clara's put on a white linen sleeveless jumpsuit. So she has mostly hidden some of the hickeys with makeup, but a little bit of the makeup wears off, and she is ready for being stylish in the sun and the desert and walking off to the edge of that untamed wilderness and staring off dramatically as the wind blows. But where she's really looking and interested in isn't even necessarily the test site, but is it that point where the desert seems to never end.
Oh, yeah.
You're on the edge of civilization.
Yeah, that's an all-you-can-eat buffet. You can look at as much of that as you'd like.
And I'd like to roll enhanced awareness there.
Okay.
11. Oh, I don't think I have enough to add to it. What is that? Oh gosh, sorry. I have it looked up. It's soul.
Yeah, it's plus soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, +2. All right. That's okay. So I don't rip the illusion.
Well, you know, start small.
Yeah. And I can see general details of focus sense in a place where the illusion was weak, and I get some general details about that.
Yeah. Well, there are kind of two things that are going on here. As you let your senses take in more data than like your shackled mind is designed to experience, the first thing that you do get is the roiling nausea of the hole that these nuclear tests have insisted on punching, and it's bad. And then also, however, the desert, if you walk into this desert, you can walk as far into it as you want and end up somewhere else. But it's not just if you walk, you know, north by northeast at a pace of 5 miles an hour, and in 2 hours you will reach a visible door where you will step into another place. It's if you walk into the desert. If you Fremen style walk into the desert and give yourself to the desert and abandon yourself and just walk into it, you could get somewhere. And that somewhere is I don't want to say it's an opposition, but there is a conflict of energies between that and Las Vegas. There is a Las Vegas codifies. Civilization applies angles. Civilization defines. And the energies that this desert has inside it are not energies that are willingly shackled. It's very free. But it's also, you know, red in tooth and claw. It's very, you know, it is the way a dog sounds when you realize too late that it has gone feral. It is that guttural growl that takes you from safe to not safe.
Does it vaguely remind me of Bethany's not girlfriend?
Totes magoats. Yes.
Bethany's been very infatuated with the desert. There's reasons.
So Clara stares out for a while as like the initial radar and kind of looks up and goes, and has our picnic guy like left us alone to be a family and is like chilling out by the car?
Generally, yes.
Okay, she doesn't want to speak openly in front of like a dude going, there's mysterious magic out there. So she looks up and goes, there's two different things, and I can't see near so deep as either of you, and I think when you look, one of you should look at one and one should look at the other, because looking at both would probably be very overwhelming. The test site is nausea and destruction and ripping and something else. And the desert reminds me of the woman that you talked to at the ball that night, Bethany.
Oh.
But it's uncontrolled. It will.
So is she.
Mm-hmm.
It will destroy you, but it will change you if you would walk out there freely and just keep walking and give yourself entirely. I don't entirely understand what I'm saying. I get initial impressions, but you two should both look at those things and hopefully you don't lose yourself in them.
Bethany, why don't you look at the one that, why don't you look out at the desert?
Oh, good.
Go look for your girlfriend.
That's not good.
Oh no. Oh, Bethany.
It's really
oh,
bad.
Bethany.
Too distracted. Even with my plus soul, it is only a 9.
Okay, and what thing just went off in your face?
Is that sixth sense or was that magical intuition?
Oh, that was magical intuition.
Oh.
That was what she was gonna do for that. Let me go find the little warnings.
That one's not so bad.
I've got it right here. You get to pick an option, but you also get an unexpected vision or attract attention, and I get to make a move.
So throughout all of this, like Bethany sort of spent the most time looking into the desert anyway of the three of them, and seeing the vastness and like seeing it, and she's had this like, the desert has been more interesting to her than the city, than Las Vegas has been the whole time. And I feel like she wants to go, like she wants to go take the walk. And she shouldn't. She knows she shouldn't, but she's been wanting to, like, just walk out into the desert and see what she could see. Because also, while that's big and I guess like scary and you can possibly lose yourself in it, she still gets to have control over that, unlike in the hospital where going off into madness is somebody else's decision.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, psychic euthanasia is a thing. Bethany, at one point, at a critical moment in your life, you met a beautiful woman. She was wearing a blood red dress and smelled like the absence of containment and the destruction of chains, and you only spoke a few words, but she has taken up space in your head ever since. She is closer to you now than she ever was. But she is already close to another you. There is an exceptionally strange sensation of both satisfaction and heart-twisting nausea when you are entirely certain that she is next to you, but not next to you. And there is a very real possibility that you may have to kill you so that you can have her.
That was already number one option. That was not a possibility.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so we'll let you to percolate on that. Matthew, where are you at, my friend?
So I looked at magical intuition, and a lot of it is more about a specific creature or item than it is about a location, which is what I'm looking at. And the only thing that I could really probably do with it in this context would be to see where the illusion is weakest, which when I am looking at the testing site is perhaps not the most effective thing, which is why Matthew steps forward and looks at the testing site and presses his hand into his side. Because he has experienced before how the world can distort when you are in pain. And he is going to try to see through the illusion.
Fucking baller. All right, I'm here. I am here for that. Like, I am here in my good clothes for this plan.
So I want to duck in very briefly because Clara, knowing he's looking at that, is going to come up behind him and just hold his shoulders. They might be in a gentle, tiny fight, but she is very worried about him looking at this place that already made her nauseous. So she's holding on to him as he does whatever he does.
Okay, it's plus soul. Roll that beautiful bean footage, my friend.
I did.
What'd you get?
I'm really excited because I was like, I want this to either be the worst or the best. And I got a roll of 15 plus soul of 2 minus 1. So that's a 16.
It totally is. It is.
And I was like, because I was like, either I should get like smacked for this really hard or this should go really well. So that's what I was doing during the thing, which is good because otherwise I would be fucking everything badly. So that is there.
I fucking love it.
That's his goal.
Okay, and I love how you absolutely like reopened wounds to do it.
Because yeah, like I was looking at it and I was like, well, Matthew's not really the type to take drugs that will distort his perception, because for him that is too much of a lack of control. I can't really just force myself into shock. So I was like, oh, well, I've got these handy dandy wounds anyway. And suffering injury.
Yeah, and you rolled super great. Matthew, your power is in Pittsburgh. The source of your power is in Pittsburgh. That is where the physical manifestations of your authority are. Your money, the things that you own, the places that you own, by extension, the people that you essentially own. If you can cast someone into the street, if you can take their home away from them, if you can take their job away from them, if you can take their food, their medicine, their family away from them, do you not own them? What part of them do you not own? So the people that you own, Pittsburgh is a steel town, and this is still when Pittsburgh is a steel town. It has not experienced its degradation and then its renaissance. And you have been on the tours of these horrific, giant, monolithic steel mills where they make things bigger than you. It's when we imagine manufacturing, we think of little manufacturing, we think of a little mill that's doing. We're talking about the big sumbitches. We're talking about the ones that cast the entire frames of tanks one piece and then heat treated the entire thing by dunking it into the heat treat solution. These are huge, terrifying, smoke-belching factories that are lit by the flame and the glowing incandescent heat of the metals with which they work. One of the ways that these factories work metal is by forging. This is not removing metal. This is not adding metal. This is changing the shape of a static amount of metal through the application of force. You're thinking blacksmith. I want you to imagine a striking surface the size of a hubcap. I want you to imagine hundreds of tons of hydraulic pressure slamming into a gigantic piece of iron that is glowing red hot, and the carbon is leaching out of it, because that's what happens when you heat it up, and it's getting this crackly, nasty crust that has this shocking amount has a shocking amount of similarity with the way blood dries and crackles and crusts on your skin. It's got that same almost wet peeling property. And imagine, you've been there, Papa Malus von Horst, your father, he's took you to these places. This is where your power is. You've seen them. And you went to bed that night with the stench of the steel mill still in your nose, despite having showered twice, with the percussive feeling in your chest from the terrible forces being brought to bear, with, even though you had some amount of ear protection, the loud, the bang, the hydraulic bang, the impacts, the fucking kinetic mayhem that is going on in your citadel. It is incredible. It was, until this very moment, Matthew, the most excessive expression of physical power you have ever seen. And you owned that. That was yours. You own that power right now. You own that steel mill. Those hydraulics, that metal is shaped at the end of the day, Matthew, by your will. It is filtered. You have a clergy. We call them middle management. But you have a clergy. You issue dictums. They follow your orders. They teach the doctrine and the dogma to the people below them. And when you issue the command, unleash hell, shape things, make things, and if you imagine all of the things that you own, all of the manufacturing facilities, all of the, oh my God, millions of tons of kinetic energy that unleash in a split second because you fucking told it to. That's this big. That is this big compared to the sparks that are thrown through, not the illusion. We're not just talking about the boring fucking release of energy. We're not just talking about whatever Einstein did. We're not talking about the thing that made the nuclear physicist cry and recite the Bhagavad Gita. I did that wrong, and I'm sorry. And quote Shiva, I have now become death, destroyer of words. We are talking about the fact that mankind has taken a chisel, placed it against the laws of the cage, and struck that chisel with a fucking nuclear sledgehammer. Matthew, this is the ultimate expression of power, because this is power over the continuity of the illusion. And you don't fucking own it.
So Matthew looks at it, and he reaches under his coat to clutch into his side the wounds from the thing that was born from this.
Mm-hmm.
And he feels Clara's hands come against his shoulders, and he braces because this fucking hurts, and it hurts enough to make it so that his vision swims for a moment. And he looks at this power. And he looks at just the sheer force of it. And he understands for the first time why it has been so tempting for industrialists throughout the years to invest in the war machine. Because God, that power, how can you look at it and not want it? How can you look at something like that and not want to hold it in your hands? Everything that he has ever been taught to be tells him that this has to be his. And he looks at it with the gaze of a lover. This is that sort of hyper possessiveness that he's been feeling towards Clara for this entire day. That is the look he is looking at this with. And he leans into her hands and she takes that sort of intake of breath as if in danger. Because this is not just the power of life and death. This isn't a gun. This isn't a tank. This isn't a missile. This is the laws of physics in your hand. And God, is that beautiful and horrible. But isn't everything beautiful? Isn't every power horrible and beautiful at the same time? And he just says, this is what we have been looking for.
I mean, it's only 10:30 and we can do a little bit more before we get in the debrief. But holy shit, man, I can't think of a better line.
No.
Like, executive producer fucking Curtis. Wow. Okay. Pledge loyalty and give obeisance, and hit the appropriate buttons and click the appropriate links, because those numbers mean something. Those are tactile, tangible feedback. Those create metrics, and metrics are good. And so if you're liking what you're doing, please share it. If you like something else, share it. Whatever you like, throw it out there, like it, subscribe it, share it, do all of those things. Hit the little stars, hit the little arrows, hit the little thumbs up. Because if you're liking what you're doing, that's one of the best ways to let the creators and those of higher power, to let our archons know that they're doing a good job. So that's it for Wrath and Tears. We thank you very much for coming. Remember, if you're acting like the Van Horsts, go to therapy. Always check in with your friends, check in with your players, know yourselves, know your boundaries, be safe, be smart. We love you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks a lot, guys.